Have you ever looked in the mirror at 3 a.m. and whispered through tears, God, did I miss it? Have you ever felt your heart pounding in the darkness, knowing something monumental is coming, but you can't name it? Do you wake up every morning with an ache in your chest that no doctor can diagnose? An emptiness that whispers you're running out of time? Stop right there. Listen to me carefully. You didn't stumble upon this message while scrolling through your phone. This message hunted you down. It tracked you through the corridors of your doubt, followed you through the hallways of your regret, and found you in that secret place where you've been hiding from your own destiny. July 8th, 2025. Remember that date, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal has been sealed in heaven's vault until this very moment. The spiritual realm has been watching you, waiting for you to be broken enough to listen, desperate enough to believe, and hungry enough to receive what's been yours all along. But here's the shocking truth that's going to shatter everything you thought you knew about your life. You weren't just surviving all these years. You were being secretly forged like a hidden sword in the fires of disappointment, hammered into shape by betrayal, sharpened by loss, and tempered by tears you thought no one saw. That depression that almost killed you in your 60s, that was God removing everything false. That loneliness that echoes through your empty house, that was heaven clearing the noise so you could finally hear his voice. That feeling of being forgotten, overlooked, passed by. That was divine camouflage protecting you until the world was desperate enough for what only you can deliver. Before we go deeper into what heaven has been hiding from you, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you sow a seed today or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message is already resonating with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith right now. Something inside you just stirred, didn't it? That flutter in your chest, that sudden warmth, that whisper saying, "This is for me." That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Your spirit recognizing what your mind forgot. If you feel it, if something deep inside you just said, "I still believe," comment those 3 words below right now. That's not just a comment. That's your covenant with destiny. That's your declaration to heaven that you're ready to remember who you were before the world told you who you should be. The veil is about to be pulled back. Chosen one. July 8th is coming like a freight train, carrying your true identity. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is whether you'll finally stop hiding from the greatness God placed in you before time began. Your exile is ending. Your silence is breaking. Your season of invisibility is over. It's time to tell you everything. How many nights have you stared at the ceiling, wondering if God put you on the shelf and forgot where he placed you? How many times have you whispered in the darkness, "Lord, why did everyone else get called up to the major leagues while I'm still sitting in the dugout?" How many years have you carried the crushing weight of believing that your silence meant you were disqualified? Let me shatter that lie right now with a truth that's going to rock you to your core. You weren't forgotten. Beloved, you were hidden on purpose. There's a massive difference between being overlooked and being preserved. And what happened to you was divine preservation of the highest order. Listen to me carefully. When a master jeweler finds a rare diamond, he doesn't immediately put it in the storefront window. He takes it to a secret room, away from prying eyes, away from thieves, away from anyone who might damage what's precious for months, sometimes years. He works on that stone in private cutting, polishing, refining until the day comes when the world is ready to see its brilliance. That's been your story. Every year of silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every season of feeling invisible wasn't abandonment, it was divine protection. God has been working on you in the secret place. And July 8th, 2025, is the day the world finally gets to see what heaven has been crafting in the shadows. You think Moses felt forgotten during those 40 years in the wilderness? 40 years of herding sheep while his people suffered in Egypt? 40 years of wondering if that burning bush encounter was just his imagination. But Moses didn't know that every single day in that desert was God removing his Egyptian pride, his royal arrogance, his self-reliance. By the time God called him at 80 years old, Moses wasn't the same man who fled Egypt in fear. He was a vessel refined enough to carry the weight of liberating an entire nation. You think Anna the prophetess felt overlooked during those decades in the temple, 84 years old? Most of it spent as a widow, praying and fasting while younger priests got all the attention. But when baby Jesus walked through those temple doors, Anna was the one whose spirit leaped. Anna was the one who recognized the Messiah. Anna was the one who became the first evangelist, proclaiming salvation to everyone in Jerusalem. Her years of hiddenness weren't wasted. They were worship that positioned her for the greatest moment in human history. What about Abraham, 75 years old when God first called him? Then, 25 more years of waiting for the promise. 25 years of people whispering, "Still no son, Abraham." But at 100 years old, 100, when Sarah was 90, Isaac was born. The child of promise didn't come in their youth when they had energy. He came in their old age when they had faith. Here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at 3:00 a.m. praying for people just like you. You've been believing the world's definition of wasted time. You've been measuring your worth by society's timeline. You've been letting a culture obsessed with youth convince you that your wrinkles are signs of expiration when they're actually heaven's credentials. What if I told you that every line on your face is a scripture written by experience? What if every gray hair is a crown of wisdom that only comes from walking with God through the fire? What if your supposed limitations are actually your qualifications for an assignment that requires exactly what you've been through? The enemy has been whispering lies in your ear for decades. You're too old now. Your time has passed. God's moved on to someone younger, someone more relevant, someone who hasn't made as many mistakes. But that's not God's voice. That's hell's desperate attempt to keep you from discovering that your greatest days aren't behind you, they're ahead of you. You survived that heart attack at 67, not because you got lucky, but because your mission wasn't complete. You buried your spouse and somehow found the strength to keep going, not because you're naturally strong, but because God knew the world still needed what only you can give. You watched your children scatter across the country and learned to pray for them from a distance, not because family doesn't matter, but because God was teaching you to intercede for people you'll never meet. Every person who walked away from you was making room for the right people to find you. Every door that stayed closed was protecting you from settling for less than God's best. Every year of feeling forgotten was actually God saying, "Not yet. They're not ready for what I've placed inside you." But July 8th changes everything. The hiding season is over. The preparation phase is complete. The veil is about to be pulled back. And when it is, you're going to understand why you had to go through everything you went through to get to where you are right now. Your silence didn't mean disqualification. It meant you were being loaded with ammunition for the battle ahead. Your obscurity didn't mean irrelevance. It meant you were being positioned for maximum impact. Your waiting didn't mean wasting time. It meant you were being aged like fine wine until the world was desperate enough to pay attention. Right now, I need you to do something that's going to terrify every demonic force that's been whispering lies about your expiration date. Write this in the comments right now. I am not done. Don't just think it. Don't just feel it. Declare it. Say it out loud where you're sitting. Let hell hear it. Let heaven respond to it. Let your own spirit remember it. Because chosen one, the God who hid you in his shadow, is the same God who's about to reveal you in his glory. And when that happens, everything you thought was ending is actually just beginning. Listen to me carefully. Chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you is going to explain every sleepless night, every financial crisis, every health scare, and every relationship that crumbled in your hands. You've been asking the wrong question for decades. You've been asking, "God, why me? Why did I have to suffer so much?" But the real question that's going to shatter your understanding is this: why did hell work overtime to destroy me? The devil doesn't waste bullets on empty targets. He doesn't send his fiercest demons after people who pose no threat to his kingdom. He doesn't orchestrate elaborate schemes to destroy ordinary lives. But you've been in his crosshairs since the day you were born, because he saw something about your July 8th destiny that terrified him to his core. Think about it. That heart attack at 67 that should have killed you, you survived. That cancer diagnosis that the doctors said was terminal, you're still here. That financial ruin that should have left you homeless, somehow you made it through. That depression so deep you considered ending it all, yet something kept you fighting. Why? Because there's something inside you that hell has been trying to eliminate for decades, and time is running out for the enemy's plans. Look at Job. The Bible says in Job 1:8, "The Lord said to Satan, 'Have you considered my servant Job?' God himself pointed Job out to the enemy. Why? Because Job carried something precious righteousness that could withstand any storm. And what happened? Satan unleashed everything boils: bankruptcy, betrayal, the death of his children. But here's what the enemy didn't count on: every attack only refined Job's faith like gold and fire. You've been living Job's story, haven't you? People look at you and think you're so strong, so together. But they never saw you on your knees at 3 a.m., wondering if God had forgotten your address. They never saw you staring at that bottle of pills, thinking maybe it would be easier to just go home to Jesus. They never saw you counting pennies at the grocery store, choosing between medication and food. But here's the shocking truth that's going to revolutionize how you see your entire life. You weren't under attack because you were weak. You were under attack because you were dangerous. Every time life knocked you down, you got back up. Every time people counted you out, you proved them wrong. Every time circumstances screamed, "Give up," something inside you whispered, "Not yet." That wasn't stubbornness. That was divine DNA. That was the enemy recognizing what God placed in you before you even knew it existed. That depression that nearly killed you in your 50s hell saw your future ministry to broken hearts and tried to silence you before you could speak life into dead situations. That financial devastation that left you eating beans and rice for months. The enemy saw your destiny to teach others about God's provision and tried to bankrupt your faith. That betrayal by your closest friend, your spouse, your own children. Satan saw your calling to heal families and tried to poison your heart with bitterness. The pattern is undeniable when you see it clearly. Every major attack in your life targeted something specific: your health, when you were called to heal others; your finances, when you were destined to demonstrate God's abundance; your family, when you were appointed to restore broken homes. Romans 8:28 tells us that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those called according to his purpose. All things, not just the pretty things, not just the things that made sense, the betrayals that taught you discernment, the failures that humbled your pride, the loneliness that drove you deeper into God's presence. All of it was orchestrating this moment. But here's what's going to blow your mind. The same fire that almost destroyed you is about to become your greatest weapon. Because once you've been through God's refining process, once you've surrendered everything and discovered He's still faithful, you carry something the world can't fake: authority. Spiritual authority. The kind that moves mountains and multiplies bread. You know what terrifies hell about you right now? It's not that you're young and strong and full of energy. It's that you've been tested by fire and you're still standing. It's that you've walked through the valley of the shadow of death and you fear no evil. It's that you've learned to trust God in the dark. And that kind of faith is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Every scar on your heart is a medal of honor. Every tear you've cried is liquid evidence of your resilience. Every night you didn't sleep is proof that you refused to quit when quitting would have been easier. The enemy hit you with his best shot, and you're still here watching this message. He tried to take you out financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and yet here you are, positioned to receive the very breakthrough he tried to prevent. Your past pain wasn't pointless, it was purposeful. Your suffering wasn't senseless, it was strategic. God has been burning away your self-reliance so he could plant his provision. He's been burning away your fear so he could plant his faith. He's been burning away your poverty mindset so he could plant his abundance mentality. The refining is almost over. Chosen one. The testing is almost complete. July 8th, 2025 marks the moment when God is about to activate everything He's been building in you through all those years of warfare. But there's something else you need to understand about why the battle was so intense, something that will prepare you for what's coming next. Chosen one. I need you to sit back for a moment and let me tell you something that's going to cut deep into your soul. You've been living a lie for so long, you've forgotten it wasn't yours to begin with. You've spent the last 20, 30, maybe 40 years wearing a name tag that heaven never printed. Failure, has been, too old, washed up, burden, the one who never quite made it. You've worn those labels so long they've become part of your skin, haven't they? But listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is going to shatter the mirror you've been looking into your entire life. That name tag. It was placed on you by people who never had the authority to name you. Your ex-spouse, who said you'd never amount to anything. That boss who passed you over for promotion after promotion. Those children who treat you like you're invisible in your own house. That doctor who delivered your diagnosis like a death sentence to your dreams. They convinced you that your season was over. They made you believe that your voice didn't matter anymore. They programmed you to think that at 70, at 80, you were supposed to fade quietly into the background and wait for your number to be called. But here's what breaks my heart. And here's what should ignite a holy anger in your spirit right now. While you've been believing their lies about who you are, heaven has been calling your real name this entire time. Isaiah 43:1 declares with thunderous authority, I have called you by name. You are mine. Not I might call you if you clean up your act. Not I will call you if you get younger. He says, I have called you by name. Past tense. Already done. Settled before you took your first breath. Do you understand what that means? While your mother was choosing your baby clothes, God was already calling you by a name that would echo through eternity. While teachers were writing grades on your report cards, heaven was writing something far more permanent in the book of life. You want to know how serious God is about names. He changes them when people can't see past their own limitations. Abram became Abraham, from exalted father to father of multitudes. Jacob the deceiver became Israel, one who wrestles with God and prevails. Saul, the murderer, became Paul the apostle. But here's the devastating truth that's been stealing your destiny for decades. You thought that label they gave you meant you were finished. But heaven sees it as the beginning. That divorce didn't disqualify you. It qualified you to minister to other broken hearts. That bankruptcy didn't shame you. It prepared you to trust God when everything else fails. That diagnosis didn't sentence you. It positioned you to speak life to others walking through their own valley of death. The enemy knew something about you that you've forgotten about yourself. He knew that if you ever heard your name the way heaven pronounces it, if you ever discovered the authority that comes with your true identity, you would become absolutely dangerous to his kingdom. So, he orchestrated a campaign of whispers. He used every broken person in your life to convince you that you were ordinary, average, forgettable. Because if you believed that lie long enough, you'd never step into the extraordinary calling that has your real name written all over it. But July 8th, 2025, is the day the lie dies. You're not forgotten. Beloved, You're engraved. Isaiah 49:16 says, "See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Not written in pencil, not typed on a computer, engraved, carved deep, permanent, unchangeable. Do you know what that means? Every time Jesus opens his hands to bless, he sees your name. Every time he reaches out to heal, your name is right there. Every time he intercedes for you at the right hand of the Father, he's looking at your name carved into his flesh. The God of the universe has your name tattooed on his hands, and you're worried about what your neighbor thinks of you. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where the rubber meets the road in your living room, in your kitchen, in that bedroom where you've cried yourself to sleep, wondering if you matter. That name they called you in high school, it's not in heaven's book. That label your family put on you, God doesn't recognize it. That identity crisis you've been carrying for decades, it's time to trade it in for the truth. Right now. Something is shifting in the spiritual atmosphere over your life. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest isn't nostalgia. That's recognition. Your soul remembering its true name. Maybe it's beloved. Maybe it's chosen. Maybe it's warrior or overcomer or faithful one. Maybe it's a name you've never heard before, but you'll know it when you hear it because your spirit will leap like a baby in the womb, recognizing the voice of its mother. The enemy has been working overtime to keep you from this moment. He's used every disappointment, every rejection, every closed door to convince you that God made a mistake when he chose you. But what Satan doesn't understand, what he'll never understand, is that the very things he used to break you were the exact tools God used to make you. You didn't survive all those years of struggle just to give up now. You didn't walk through all that fire just to hide in the ashes. You didn't endure all that pain just to settle for someone else's definition of who you are. The cave you've been hiding in, that depression, that isolation, that feeling of being forgotten, it wasn't your tomb. It was your cocoon. And July 8th is the day you stop crawling and remember you were born to fly. But here's the question that will determine everything about your next chapter. Everything about the legacy you leave. Everything about whether you die with your music still inside you. Are you finally ready to take off the name tag they gave you and put on the one heaven has been saving for you your entire life? Because once you remember who you really are, once you hear your name the way God pronounces it, there's no going back to small. There's no returning to invisible. There's no more hiding in the cave of other people's opinions. The lie is crumbling. Chosen one, your true identity is rising. The question is, will you finally answer when heaven calls your real name? Listen to me carefully. Chosen one, July 8th, 2025, is not just another Tuesday on your calendar. It's not just another day you'll mark off with your morning coffee and evening news. July 8th is a doorway, a threshold, a spiritual checkpoint that was carved into heaven's timeline before the first star lit up the darkness. You want to know why your spirit has been restless these past weeks, why you've been waking up at 3:17 a.m. with your heart pounding and no earthly reason. Because your soul recognizes what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. The countdown isn't just ticking in your head, it's thundering in the heavenly realm. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. This isn't about time running out. This is about you running into the fullness of what God has been preparing you for since the day you took your first breath. Running into the destiny that's been waiting behind a veil so thick. Even hell couldn't see what God was building. You see, there are two kinds of time mentioned in the Bible: Chronos, clock time; calendar time, the mechanical ticking that measures your mortal existence. And then there's Kairos, God's time, appointed time, the moment when heaven and earth collide and eternity breaks through into your reality. July 8th isn't Chronos. Beloved, July 8th is pure Kairos. It's the appointed time that Daniel wrote about when he said, "But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end." The scroll is being unrolled, chosen one. The seal is being broken. And you who thought you were too old, too late, too forgotten, you're about to discover why you had to survive everything you survived to witness this moment. What's waiting on the other side of this doorway? Why did hell panic this week? Because the enemy knows something you're just now beginning to remember. He knows that when God's chosen ones finally step through their appointed doorway, kingdoms shift, strongholds crumble, generations change course. Think about Noah. Genesis 7:11 tells us, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month on that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth." Not approximate timing, not around that time. On that day, specific, appointed, Kairos. Think about Moses. Exodus 12:41 declares, "At the end of the 430 years, to the very day, all the Lord's divisions left Egypt." To the very day. Not when it was convenient. Not when Moses felt ready. On God's appointed day. The doorway opened and an entire nation walked from slavery to freedom. Think about Jesus. Galatians 4:4 says, "But when the set time had fully come, God sent his Son." When the set time had fully come. Heaven has a calendar, and every appointed moment arrives exactly when it's supposed to. Your set time is July 8th, 2025. But here's what terrifies the forces of darkness about this particular doorway. It's not opening for the young and ambitious. It's not swinging wide for the educated and connected. It's opening for the overlooked, the underestimated, the ones the world wrote off decades ago. Moses was 80 when his doorway opened. Abraham was 75. Sarah was 90. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age isn't your disqualification. It's your qualification. Every wrinkle is a battle scar. Every gray hair is a trophy. Every limitation you think you carry is actually proof that you've been tested in fires that would have consumed weaker vessels. You want to know why July 8th was marked in heaven? Because this generation is drowning in voices that have never been tested. They're being led by people who've never walked through a real valley, never buried their dreams, and watched God resurrect them. Never spent a decade in the wilderness wondering if they heard from heaven at all. But you've been through the refiner's fire. You've had your David moments hiding in caves while lesser men sat on thrones. You've had your job season when everything you touched turned to ash. You've had your Abraham years waiting for promises that seemed to die of old age. And now, heaven is saying, now you're ready. Now you understand what I was building in the secret place. Now you can carry the weight of what I'm about to release. The doorway isn't just opening for you, chosen one. It's opening through you. Your obedience on July 8th becomes someone else's breakthrough. Your willingness to step forward becomes a pathway for others who've been waiting in the shadows, wondering if their time will ever come. Revelation 3:8 promises, "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. Doors don't stay open forever. Even God's doors have appointed times. The children of Israel had their moment at the Jordan River. They could have crossed immediately, or they could have waited. But waiting would have meant watching the opportunity pass to another generation. Your Jordan moment is July 8th. Your Red Sea is about to part. But only if you're standing at the water's edge when heaven gives the command to move forward. The question burning in the throne room of heaven tonight isn't whether you're qualified. The question is whether you'll be ready when your name echoes through the corridors of eternity and God Himself says, "Come up here, the doorway is open, your time has come." What will your answer be when heaven calls your name? You know what breaks my heart. It's not the failures. It's not the closed doors. It's not even the betrayals that left you questioning everything you believed about yourself. What breaks my heart is that you think you're finished. You think because you're 70 or 80 or 90, because your body moves slower, because the world tells you your time has passed. You think the fire inside you has burned out. But listen to me, chosen one. The reason you still feel that ache in your chest when you wake up at 3:00 a.m., the reason you still dream about what could have been, the reason your spirit still stirs when you hear a certain song or remember a certain moment, it's because the fire never died. It never died. There's an ember under the ashes of your disappointment. There's a flame beneath the weight of your regrets. There's a roaring fire under the blanket of the world's indifference. You're not burned out. You're being reignited. The enemy has been whispering lies to you for decades. You're too old. You're too tired. You missed your chance. But that's because he knows something you've forgotten. He knows that one voice speaking from decades of walking with God can destroy 1,000 voices speaking from mere opinion. He knows that one life lived in authentic faith can awaken an entire generation. Look at Moses, 80 years old when God called him to lead a nation out of bondage. 80. While the world was writing him off as too old, too tired, too late, God was saying, "Now you're ready." Exodus 7:7 tells us Moses was 80 years old when he performed his first miracle before Pharaoh. His age wasn't his disqualification. It was his diploma. You think you're too old. Moses liberated millions at 80. You think you've missed your moment. Abraham became a father of nations at 99. You think God's forgotten about you. Anna, the prophetess, was 84 when she became the first person to proclaim Jesus as the Messiah to all of Jerusalem. Your wrinkles are not marks of defeat. They're medals of victory. Every gray hair is a trophy declaring, "I survived what was meant to destroy me." Every ache in your joints is a testament proclaiming, "I'm still here, still standing, still believing." But here's what's going to revolutionize your remaining years. You don't need another sign. You are the sign. You don't need another prophet. You are the prophet your generation has been waiting for. Psalm 92:14 declares with thunderous authority, they will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green, not withered, not dried up, not forgotten. Fresh and green at 70, at 80, at 90, and beyond. You survived that divorce that nearly broke you. The fire lived. You survived burying your spouse, your friends, your dreams. The fire lived. You survived the diagnosis, the financial ruin, the betrayal that left you questioning everything. The fire lived. And if the fire lived through all of that, what makes you think it's going to die now? The world looks at you and sees age. God looks at you and sees experience. The world sees limitations. God sees preparation. The world sees your final chapter. God sees your greatest chapter, right now. As these words hit your spirit, something is happening. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest isn't nostalgia. That's not wishful thinking. That's the Holy Spirit breathing on coals that never went cold. But here's what you need to understand, and this is urgent. July 8th, 2025 isn't just marking the passage of time, it's marking the moment when God says, now. Now is when I use everything I've put you through. Now is when the fire I've been tending in secret becomes a blaze that lights up the darkness. You think you're too old to make a difference? Tell that to Caleb, who at 85 years old said, give me this mountain. Tell that to John, who received the revelation of Jesus Christ when he was over 90 years old on the island of Patmos. The fire that burns in you isn't just personal, it's generational. It's not just for you, it's for your children, your grandchildren, for people you'll never meet who need to see that it's never too late to burn bright. You are not the sunset, you are the sunrise of something the world has never seen before. I need you to understand something that might shock you. Every morning you open your eyes is a defiance of hell's agenda. Every prayer you whisper is a declaration that faith outlasts flesh. Every moment you choose hope over despair. You become a living, breathing sign that God's plans cannot be thwarted. The world looked for earthquakes and found sleeping ground. They searched for blood moons and saw ordinary nights. They waited for economic collapse and watched markets fluctuate, but they missed the greatest sign of all the army of silver-haired saints who refused to die before their time, who stayed alive to see the glory of God revealed in the earth. You are that sign. Your perseverance is prophetic. Your survival is supernatural. If you're still breathing, if your heart is still beating, if you can still hear my voice right now, the mission still stands. The fire lives in you, and it's not done burning. But the question that will determine everything about your remaining years is this: will you finally give that fire permission to burn? Or will you spend your final chapters wondering what could have been if you had just believed that God still had something magnificent planned for your life? Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to throw away everything the world has whispered about your golden years. Forget the rocking chair retirement they sold you. Dismiss the idea that your productive days are behind you. Because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about aging and activate a fire in your bones that's been dormant for decades. You are not retired. You're being deployed. The same God who called Moses at 80 didn't suddenly develop amnesia when you hit 65. The same God who used Sarah at 90 to birth nations didn't forget your address when you started collecting Social Security. The same God who positioned Anna the prophetess at 84 to recognize the Messiah hasn't filed you away in heaven's archives marked expired. You've been living under the greatest deception the enemy ever sold to the church that age equals irrelevance. That gray hair means game over. That retirement means retreat from purpose. But let me shock you with the truth that's going to resurrect your destiny right where you sit. Every wrinkle on your face is a line of wisdom. Every scar on your heart is a medal of honor. Every year you've survived is proof that hell couldn't kill what heaven still needs alive. You didn't just endure 7, 8, 9 decades by accident. You were preserved for such a time as this. Look around America right now. Look at the chaos, the confusion, the spiritual bankruptcy of an entire generation. They're drowning in information but starving for wisdom. They have access to everything but understanding of nothing. They can Google any fact in 3 seconds, but can't find meaning in 30 years. And where do you think that wisdom, where do you think that understanding lives? It's sitting in assisted living facilities, shuffling through grocery stores, playing solitaire in empty houses, convinced their time has passed. The very wisdom this nation is dying for is locked up in the minds and hearts of people who've been told to step aside and make room for the young. But here's what breaks my heart, and should break yours too. While you're accepting the world's verdict of irrelevance, there are grandchildren drowning in despair. There are communities crumbling for lack of moral leadership. There are families falling apart because nobody remembers what covenant means anymore. The world says step aside. Heaven says step forward. Society whispers you're too old to matter. God thunders you're finally old enough to be trusted with kingdom authority. They tell you to slow down. He tells you to rise up. You're not too old. Beloved, you're seasoned. And that seasoning, that refinement through decades of fire, that's exactly what breaks generational curses. Your endurance intimidates hell itself. Your faithfulness through multiple storms terrifies every demon assigned to your family line. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Your age isn't your limitation. It's your weapon. Your experience isn't your burden. It's your ammunition. Your longevity isn't proof you're done. It's evidence you're dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Caleb understood this. At 85 years old, when every logical voice said take it easy, he stood before Joshua and declared, "Give me this mountain." Not give me a comfortable retirement. Not give me a peaceful pasture. Give me the mountain with the giants on it. Give me the impossible assignment that requires everything I've learned in 8.5 decades of walking with God. You think you're too tired? Moses split the Red Sea at 80. You think you're too forgotten? Anna spent 60 years in the temple before she held the Messiah in her arms. You think you're too late? Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Your problem isn't your age. Your problem is you've been listening to the wrong voices. You've been tuning into the frequency of limitation instead of the frequency of commissioning. Right now, as I speak these words, there's a stirring in the spiritual realm. Heaven is activating an army that hell thought was defeated. God is commissioning warriors that the world thought were finished. You are not a relic collecting dust on history's shelf. You are a rescue mission deployed to save a generation that's forgotten where they came from. Your grandchildren need to see that faith still works in the 21st century. Your neighbors need to witness that integrity still stands when everything else falls. Your community needs to experience the kind of love that's been tested by time and proven by trial. But here's the urgent truth that should set your soul on fire. This commissioning has an expiration date, not because God's faithfulness expires, but because your window of opportunity does. Every morning you wake up is another day to step into your deployment. Every breath in your lungs is another chance to answer the call. The enemy has been content to let you sit quietly in the corner because he knows what happens when seasoned saints remember their authority. He knows what happens when grandmothers start praying with the kind of faith that moves mountains. He knows what happens when grandfathers start speaking truth with voices refined by decades of walking with God. You are not a burden to be managed. You are a weapon to be deployed. You are not yesterday's news. You are tomorrow's hope walking in yesterday's wisdom. You are not the remnant of a generation that's passing away. You are the foundation of a generation that's rising up. The commissioning is happening right now. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest isn't nostalgia. That's activation. That flutter in your spirit isn't memory. That's mission downloading into your soul. So here's what I need you to do right this moment. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just respond from the place in your spirit that remembers who you were before the world told you who you should be. Type this now. I accept the mission. Comment it. Speak it. Believe it. Because the world is waiting for what only you can deliver. And heaven is holding its breath to see if you'll finally remember that retirement was never God's plan for his chosen ones. The deployment begins now. Chosen one, we've reached the sacred ground, the place where time stops and eternity whispers. The moment when everything you've survived, everything you've endured, everything you've questioned finally makes perfect sense. Can you feel it? That holy hush settling over your spirit right now. That's not silence, beloved. That's the sound of heaven holding its breath, waiting for your answer. I need you to picture something with me. Close your eyes if you can. Imagine standing before the throne of the Almighty God. Not in fear, but in wonder. The same hands that spoke galaxies into existence are reaching toward you. The same voice that called light from darkness is calling your name. And in that sacred moment, he asks you one question that will echo through eternity. What did you do with July 8th, 2025? What did you do when I pulled back the veil and showed you who you really were? Will you tell him you were too afraid, too tired, too old? Will you whisper that you didn't believe the calling was real? Or will you look into his eyes? Those eyes that have been watching over you for 70, 80, 90 years and say, I said yes, Lord. I remembered who I was. I stepped into the destiny you wrote for me before time began. This isn't just about July 8th, dear one. This is about every July 8th you've missed because you listened to the wrong voices. Every divine appointment you walked past because you thought you weren't qualified. Every miracle you almost touched but pulled your hand back because someone convinced you that you weren't worthy. But here's what breaks my heart, and here's what should terrify you. Time isn't standing still while you make up your mind. Every sunset brings you closer to that final conversation with God. Every gray hair is a reminder that your assignment on earth has an expiration date. Every morning you wake up is heaven asking, "Are you ready to remember yet?" The prophet Isaiah cried out in chapter 55, verse 6, "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near, while he may be found." While he is near. That phrase should shake you to your core because it implies there's a window, a season, a moment when the door of opportunity swings wide and then it closes. July 8th, 2025 is your window, chosen one. It's swinging open right now, creaking on ancient hinges, flooding your life with light you haven't seen in decades. But windows don't stay open forever. Seasons change, moments pass, and the greatest tragedy in human history isn't that people fail, it's that they almost succeed, but hesitate at the threshold of their breakthrough right now. As I speak these words, there are people in nursing homes who once felt fire in their bones, but convinced themselves they were too old to matter. There are grandparents sitting in quiet kitchens who carry wisdom that could change the world. But they've been silenced by voices that told them their time had passed. There are seasoned saints who survived wars, raised families, buried loved ones, and weathered storms that would have destroyed lesser souls, and they think God is done with them. That is the greatest lie hell ever whispered. Beloved chosen one, as we come to the close of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry these eternal truths deep in your heart like precious stones that will never lose their shine. Remember this July 8th, 2025 isn't just another date circled on your calendar. It's your divine appointment with the destiny God wrote for you before time began. You are not too old, not too late, and certainly not forgotten. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle tells a story of survival. Every scar proves you're still standing when lesser souls would have fallen. Remember this. The fire that burns within you was lit by the breath of the Almighty Himself, and no force in hell can extinguish what heaven has ignited. That restlessness in your spirit, that stirring in your chest, that whisper saying there's more, that's not wishful thinking. That's prophetic awareness. Your soul recognizing the sound of heaven's footsteps approaching. Remember this, Moses was 80 when God handed him the staff that would part seas. Abraham was 75 when heaven called him to father nations. Sarah was 90 when she held the miracle she'd waited a lifetime to receive. Your age isn't your disqualification. It's your diploma from the University of Life Experience. And here's what I need you to know with absolute certainty. You are not walking this journey alone, even in your darkest hours, even when the silence feels deafening, even when doubt tries to convince you that God has moved on to someone younger. Remember this, the same God who never left Moses in the wilderness is walking with you through yours. The same God who sustained Abraham through 25 years of waiting is sustaining you through your seasons of delay. The same God who remembered Sarah in her old age remembers you and yours. You have a community here, thousands of believers who understand your struggles because they're fighting the same battles. We see you. We believe in you. We're praying for you. You're not an isolated warrior. You're part of an army of seasoned saints who refuse to surrender their purpose to the passage of time. But let me ask you something that will echo in your heart long after you've closed this video. If God has preserved you through every storm that tried to destroy you, if He's sustained you through every valley that threatened to swallow you, if He's carried you through every fire that attempted to consume you, what makes you think He's going to abandon you now? Right before your greatest chapter unfolds, let me place my hand on your shoulder right now, wherever you are, and pray over you with the authority of someone who has walked with God for decades and witnessed His faithfulness in every season. Heavenly Father, I come before your throne right now, lifting up every precious soul who has journeyed with us through this message. Lord, you know their names before I speak them. You know their tears before they fall. You know their dreams before they dare to dream them. I pray that you would place your mighty hand upon them right now. Let them feel your presence like warm oil flowing over their weary spirits. Remind them that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, that their steps are ordered by you, and that their latter days will be greater than their former days. Father, where there has been confusion, bring clarity. Where there has been doubt, ignite faith. Where there has been silence, break it with your voice calling their names. Open doors that no man can shut. Provide in ways that defy logic. Heal what doctors cannot touch. Restore what the enemy has stolen. I pray for their families. Lord, bring unity where there has been division. I pray for their health. Let every cell remember its original design. I pray for their finances, open streams of provision that will overflow their need. I pray for their peace. Let your presence guard their hearts and minds. And God, I pray specifically that every person hearing this prayer would step boldly into their calling on July 8th, 2025, knowing that you go before them, you walk beside them, and you have already prepared the way in the mighty name of Jesus, who conquered death itself so that we might live abundantly. I pray, Amen. Now, chosen one, before you leave this sacred space, I want to hear from you in the comments below. Share just one word that describes what's stirring in your spirit right now. Don't overthink it. Just type the first word that comes to your heart. Let this community surround you with encouragement and prayer. If this message has awakened something in your soul, if you felt God speaking directly to your situation, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. You might be the vessel God uses to remind another chosen one that their story isn't over. It's just beginning. Ask your questions. Share your concerns. Request prayer. This community is here for you. We're building more than a following. We're building a family of believers who understand that age is not a limitation, but a qualification for God's greatest assignments. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Your faithfulness to listen until the very end tells me everything I need to know about your heart, you're ready for what God has prepared. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Every message we share is designed to encourage, equip, and empower God's chosen ones for the mission ahead. Remember, beloved, July 8th, 2025 is coming. Your destiny is waiting, and the God who called you is faithful to complete what He has started in you. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of your calling, rest in the certainty of His love, and know beyond any shadow of doubt that your greatest days aren't behind you, they're just beginning. The mission still stands, and so do you. God bless you mightily. Chosen one, go forth and shine.